Welcome back to Kicking the Seat, a movie podcast from The Last Guy Anyone Asks. I'm, as always, that guy, Ian Simmons, and you're listening to the audio companion to Kickseat.com. It's episode 131 of this thing of ours, and today we're talking Money Monster with Emmanuel Noisette, a.k.a. Eman of Eman's Movie Reviews. We caught an advanced screening of the film last Wednesday at Chicago's Showplace Icon Theater, and Eman sat down with me in the upstairs bar afterwards to share some thoughts. We were both pleasantly surprised by Money Monster, and this is a really fun chat. Let's talk Money Monster. I have a few quick questions about a few quick notes about the recording that I'd like to share, so no one gets lost along the way. First, at one point, I go on and on about the film's horrid marketing, complaining at length about the movie poster. The poster I described is only one of the official images that the studio put out, and Eman hadn't seen it, which is why he had no idea what the hell I was talking about. The image I was referring to was actually a variant of the main poster, so this is totally on me. Second, because I hadn't cleaned out the files on my Zoom H4n recorder in like forever, the conversation was cut short by a couple minutes. The chat is still a solid length, but you'll notice a semi-abrupt stop when we detour into talking about The Big Short at the end. There's nothing crazy crucial that was missed there. I think it was Eman promoting his stuff. Not that that's not a big deal, but I got all links to his endeavors in the show notes, and he also he'll be promoting this episode actually on his various channels. So I'll have more information about that as they come available. So third, speaking of detours, there are a lot of them in this episode, as you can already tell. Mostly they're about summer movies. It's weird, I know, and Eman does his best to steer me back to the path, but the truth is that Money Monster is a summer movie, and if you've read my review on Kickseat.com, you'll know that I had an epiphany while writing it. And no, that wasn't some cute narrative device. I actually allowed a kernel of an idea to grow into an unexpected take on the film toward the end of my review, and it was a kernel that was planted in this conversation, which you're about to listen to. And that's why you may notice a tonal shift in my enthusiasm for Money Monster between the night we recorded this and the day I posted my written review. Well, I guess it's about time. I promise this time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Kickseat. You can like the Kicking the Seat Facebook fan page. You can subscribe to this very podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, however you get your audio fix. If you like the show or don't like the show, please rate and review so I can continue to make this as entertaining a podcast as possible. I also have to thank Eman, again, Emmanuel Noisette of Eman's Movie Reviews. And I'll have links to that, all that on to his main site, on my main site, and on the podcast post. On his main site, he does write-ups, brief, kind of capsule summary reviews, and then on his terrific YouTube channel, you can find both spoiler-free and spoiler-filled video reviews and movie reactions. So, until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thanks very much for listening to the Kicking the Seat podcast, and take care.
Let's talk about Money Monster.
Money, money, money.
Jodie Foster's Money Monster. I had forgotten that she was the director of this movie.
I did too. I completely forgot.
Yeah. So it's like a nice, they have the stingers at the end of movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of like that, like when her name came up.
Right.
Like, holy shit.
I think almost everybody gasped like, oh, really? Yeah.
But, as I mentioned in the promo that we just shot, the reaction video, I was not really looking forward to this because the subject matter is fascinating. I like finance and movies about media and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in the trailers for this, they start off showing George Clooney as the sort of the Jim Cramer style TV host.
Right.
His station gets broken into. This guy waving a gun on air. Julia Roberts is the director in the booth. It's all tense. But then they show cops and people marching down New York City. I'm like, oh, they're going to solve the entire financial crisis in an hour and a half, of course.
Absolutely.
And they, not to spoil anything, but they don't. It is not a big, dumb, blockbuster-style movie.
Yeah.
It is coming out at a very interesting time, though.
I think the timing is perfect. Now, just to be clear, we're not spoiling, right?
No.
Okay. That's up to you. It's your call.
You know what? We're going to spoil it because this will likely post on Monday.
Okay. So you guys should have gone and read his review. And
which will be up Friday-ish.
Friday-ish. Mine will also be up Friday-ish. Maybe. Go Go read his first.
Well, and just for the record, where can they read your review, sir?
Well, I'm glad you asked. If you go to emansmoviereviews.com, you can find all of my reviews, which are typically short, straight to the point, and spoiler-free. So, please, Eman's Movie Reviews, Google it, and you'll find me somewhere.
And I should note that those reviews are the exact opposite of mine, which
Yes.
tend to be very long and spoil the hell out of everything.
So we are the yin and yang of movie reviews in more ways than one. So,
we're not going to talk about Batman versus Superman.
Oh.
But
that's another day.
But yeah, so what did you think of it, of Money Monster?
Well, I mean, going into it, I think I was kind of like you. I had low expectations. I was a little bit weary about it because I almost felt like the trailers almost told me a lot of the story. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit concerned about where they were going to go with this. But at the same time, and maybe this is just because I've seen one too many movies, I felt like it was going to be a little bit predictable. Mm-hmm. Overall, there were some things that were predictable, like, well, we won't get into that yet, but the things that make you enjoy this movie, I think, are the actors and their chemistry.
Yeah.
Because the connection between Julia Roberts and George Clooney, I think it was almost a given. Like, you knew that was going to work. I was just more concerned about the plot progression. Like, how are you guys going to get me out of this TV studio, or are you going to keep me in here and now we have like a cell booth or cell phone type of situation phone booth, yeah, right? And like we just stay there the entire time. So that was my big concern. Like, where are you going to go with this? Because I get the situation, but let's move it along.
Yeah.
So it got a little bit far-fetched towards the end.
Yeah.
But I think overall, because of the emotions that they draw upon, and the intensity, the suspense. I mean, it was rarely a dull moment, I think. Like, it was always something that was there to, like, just grip you right back in. Whether that was, like, a random, quick, humorous moment, which was incredibly unexpected.
Yeah.
Or if it was literally, like, a gunshot going off. Or just, some really intense moments. Between Kyle, I forget the actor's name.
Played by Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell, yeah. Phenomenal. I thought he was really good at that. Like, he sold it for me. Like, I really bought into his character. He wasn't one-dimensional. I appreciated that. He wasn't just some crazy local guy that got screwed over, He came off as a real person with real issues.
Yeah.
Especially with his girlfriend. That was real.
That, I think, is where the movie turned around for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because here's the thing. I was with it the entire time. I liked Money Monster from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. But through a good portion of that, the first part of it, I felt like I was watching George Clooney and Julia Roberts play these parts, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun, and their banter back and forth. It was very kind of, Ocean's 11 days.
Right.
And that's fine, but if I'm watching something that's supposed to be a drama, I need to believe that I'm watching characters, not actors. But Jack O'Connell breaks into this TV station, takes everybody hostage. It's a TV show called Money Monster, which again is like a Jim Cramer, I think it's CNBC show or something.
Yeah.
And this giant corporation, their stock plummets the day before. This kid, Kyle, played by Jack O'Connell, loses his entire investment, and he goes a little crazy, and he wants to take it out on the head of this corporation, and George Clooney's character. But it was all very kind of actorly and showy. But then the cops finally arranged to have Kyle's girlfriend, who's pregnant, show up and talk to him. And then I figured, okay, I know how this is going to go.
Right.
She's going to be all like... They kind of allude to this in the trailers, which is a great bit of
she's the solution.
Yeah.
She's going to fix this.
She's all... in the trailer,
Yeah.
she is all like crying and like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And then he's like, "I don't know, baby," and
Yeah.
then she starts yelling at him.
Woo, I don't
just
know
like,
if yelling
yo.
is appropriate. I mean,
Emasculating
tearing
him.
out his heart and soul, emasculating him. I mean, you just felt bad for the guy.
And I think that scene has, it might be my line of the year. It's certainly the line to beat.
Yeah.
Because right before they cut her off,
Yeah.
she says, "Kyle, you cry when you fuck."
Oh my gosh. Like, if you ever want to tear a man down, just attack his sexual game and his sexual prowess in front of millions.
10 million people.
Couple 10 millions, right? Yeah, because the world was tuning in, right?
Yes.
So, might have hit the billion mark. Just tell them how impudent you are and how, emasculate. Oh, my. It was just... I think every guy collectively groaned and moaned. And it was sad.
It got a huge laugh in the theater, but going back to Jack O'Connell, in a lesser movie, I think the feed would have been cut, and he would have turned to the camera to George Clooney and said, "Oh, she's lying.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
true, right?" He's just completely stunned and sad because he knows that what she said is true. That's how.
You know what? I think
himself.
I don't think he was stunned. I think that what ended up happening was that was their relationship. He was always the abused one in that relationship. That's what I got from it. And I think that she was just doing what she normally does, belittles him and, makes him feel bad. Because at the end of the day, I was really trying to sit there and think about what was his motivation to sit there and take that much money and just put it up.
Yeah.
And, just kind of listening to her tirade into him, she was just saying, like, you're not smart enough. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, he just really wants to be a provider with this baby on the way. Mm-hmm. Maybe he knows he's not the most educated. Maybe he knows he's messed up in the past.
Yeah.
And, Clooney's character was the one person that gave him this one gleam of hope.
Yeah.
And, like she said, he's been in the basement, like, reading these books, these financial books. So, like, he thought this was his moment. And I think that when she was belittling him, he finally realized, like, wow, the dream is over,
Yeah.
And that was crushing. And I think everyone, even within the movie, felt that pain.
Yeah.
And it was a surreal moment.
Yeah. There was that first stretch, as I mentioned. I was kind of, I enjoyed the movie. I wasn't fully immersed in it. I want to go back and see this again, knowing now how it turns out, knowing that I ultimately am satisfied with this in a lot of different ways. But just to see that moment in the stairwell where the cop goes to pick her up and she's got that kind of a defensive attitude, there's more in that now that I'm thinking about it than just, I don't know you, leave me alone, you're kind of creeping me out. That was her character really coming through. She's just belligerent.
We just didn't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep. Always nervous when I press pause.
I understand.
Like, really? Do I just unpause it?
I get it.
Yeah, we're going. But yeah, so I want to go back and experience this again. I don't know if I'll see it in the theater again. Yeah. Because I'm already obligated to go see Captain America again.
Oh, you have to.
Only because you've seen it twice in the theater already. And
yes.
You
have to catch up.
I feel emasculated.
As you should. You should. This is a man's movie. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's for everyone. It's family friendly.
Quick side note on Captain America.
Sure.
You've seen it twice. Did you see both in IMAX 3D or?
I saw one in standard, and then I saw the second one in IMAX 3D.
Here's a question: which do you recommend more?
Oh, I actually recommend the 2D because when I saw that the first time, it was perfectly fine. I was very happy with it. And then come to find out that they didn't shoot the movie with an IMAX 3D camera. So it was a lot of the After Effects placed on it.
Wow. So they artificially blew it?
Yeah, and it's for me anyway. For me, when I was watching it, it was one of those type of experiences where you better not tilt your head because, it gets blurry. The action is very fast-paced, so you might just get lost in it. So I appreciate it in 2D. Money is tight, and this is the Money Podcast, right? It'd be perfectly fine.
Sell.
I know, right? It's a triple buy to watch it in 2D. You'll be fine.
Okay, it was interesting because earlier today I was listening to another podcast where they were reviewing it, and they were saying, go see it in 2D. I'm like, really?
It really now, and I'll just give this little beautiful nugget for your audience. X-Men, that you should go watch in 3D.
Yeah.
Visuals were really good for that. Like that was purposefully made for 3D. If you don't watch it in 3D, you will feel cheated.
Okay.
So that's one.
I've not seen Apocalypse yet, so we'll have to talk about that another time.
Yes, absolutely, because there's a lot to talk about. We need to do a podcast for that.
Okay.
Have me on when you go see it. I have a lot to say.
Wow. I kind of want to go see it right now. But
Maybe not as good, but I've got a lot on my mind with that movie.
Okay. Well, the reaction to it is out. Yes, we will get back to Money Monster in a second.
Money Monster.
But, the reactions are out to X-Men Apocalypse.
Yes. Don't believe any of them.
Really?
No, they're so all over the place. I read somewhere on Forbes where they said this was a disaster. It's not. Someone else said that this was fun and great, and it's not. It's a mix of both.
Really? So it's solidly in the middle?
It's solidly in the middle. It has pockets where it's really bad, but it also has pockets where it's really funny and good, and it's neither one of both. Because at the end of the day, when you walk out, you just be like, oh, okay, another X-Men movie.
Something tells me that's not the reaction Fox wants to hear.
I don't think they care, because they're already moving forward with another one, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Fox is fine.
But so is the Justice League, allegedly.
Oh yeah, that's another podcast in itself.
Okay,
Jeez.
So let's get back to the other summer blockbuster.
Which one? Right on the side.
Yep.
Money Monster.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So it was weird when I was watching this movie, particularly towards the climax, which gets kind of not action movie-ish, but more actiony than you might expect.
Yeah.
It was the scene in the studio where Clooney's character was thinking about whether or not he goes for the gun.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they just had these close-ups on his face.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of him in the bat suit for.
Oh, don't do that! Don't do that.
Batman would have gone for the gun.
Don't do that. No. You spend years trying to get things out of your mind, and then someone gives you that nice little recall.
That's what I'm here for. The bat roller or ice skates.
I just had a flashback of bat nips and the bat credit card, and
I forgot about the
yeah,
bat
you
credit
can't
card.
forget the credit card.
Is that from Batman and Robin or Batman Forever?
I don't.
It's
It's been merged together in my mind as one big mess. I don't know.
President called the Batster card.
I know, right?
Okay, so again, back to Money Monster.
Yeah. We'll talk about this eventually.
Yes. What was the thing that surprised you the most about it?
The humor. I was really shocked that there was so much of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understood that there would be a couple chuckle-worthy moments whenever you have George Clooney in there, because George Clooney can't help but to be witty and charming, and, like, that's just part of who he is, right? Mm-hmm. That's his shtick. And he works well with Julia Roberts. So I expected that, but there were so many other moments, and I mean, that was outside of just him, that you sat there. I mean, even with Kyle, when he would just say stuff like, "Oh, we're on camera," or "What's going on?" Like just these little moments that are chuckle-worthy, or even, dare I say, even like the audience reactions, like the audience within the movie that were watching this on TV. Like, oh, okay, everything is going on, and, let's go back to foosball now. Like, let's go back to regular day life. But yeah.
That was, we talked a bit about earlier about this having a kind of a social conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a really nice commentary on the audience in the movie and of the movie.
Sure.
Because they do these cutaways to various types of people watching this hostage situation unfold. You've got the kind of Wall Street guys in the bar.
Oh, yeah.
They're loose ties, they're drinks, and they're watching it. They're kind of they're interested, but they're not like. Oh,
well, they're interested in the financial aspects, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not the human drama. And then you get to there was never really anybody that I could see who had their hands to their mouths, like, oh my God, is it going to happen? They're all just kind of bored as if it was another reality show or another one of the characters.
Well, they became a character, right? Like the world became a character, and I thought that was very interesting. And of course, my mind just wanders because I just have short attention span. But one thing that was really starting to go through my mind was I thought it was rather interesting that Jodie Foster decided to have Kyle be a white guy. Because one thing I was thinking about was, how would this entire interaction go, or how would the world as a character react if they were Muslim, or if they were black, or if they were Hispanic? And I was just really wondering, like, would we have the same emotional shifts? Because at one point we're sitting there in the beginning like, hey, this Kyle guy, he's a pretty dangerous guy, he's a loose cannon. Then once we get the girlfriend in there, we're like, whoa, poor guy. He's just down on his luck, And then even all the way towards the end where he's just like, I just wanted you to admit you were wrong. And it was like he was a man of principle at that point. It wasn't about financial gain. It wasn't about anything. It was just about the morality of the situation for him. And like when he died, it was almost like, man, I connected with that. But like I said, I just wondered if that would have shifted, with all the different variables that happen with the stereotypes that we have. Because if he was a Muslim guy, then would the police have been a little bit more aggressive? Would they have assumed, like, here's another suicide bomber or something like that? Would the audience have connected? Would they have, when they were doing their little parade down the street?
Yeah.
Would the people have been, because some people were cheering and dancing, and would there have been more boos? Would there have been people throwing stuff at them? I mean...
that is a very interesting question that I hadn't considered until just now. And, my mind immediately went to, okay, who would be an actor that could take Jack O'Connell's part?
Sure.
To do what you're saying. And I'm thinking, it's going to sound horribly offensive somehow, but we're skewing black in our hypothesis.
Right.
I'm thinking, like, that'd be a Michael B. Jordan part.
I can see that.
He's a fantastic young actor.
Sure.
And I could see him in that part, and now I kind of want to visit the alternate universe
where
Money Monster was a movie starring him.
If you saw maybe Fruitvale Station, if you took that character, maybe not that specific character, but that character type, I could see that just being interchanged. You put an Oscar Grant type of character in those shoes, a struggling father, someone who's trying to do right, can't seem to get it together, already gets profiled a certain way by the police, even though he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I could definitely see that. But that's a different movie. It's a different movie I'd be interested to see, though.
Yeah. This sounds terrible. I wonder if he would even, that scene in the beginning where Kyle is sneaking into the building as the delivery man.
Yeah.
Would he have gotten
that
there?
probably wouldn't have worked. Movie would have ended like, wait a minute, where's your clearance? What are you doing?
And then it's just a half-hour episode of Money Monster.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry, that's just me sidetracking. Then
but I mean, that's a good point. I go back to the poster of this movie, which I just really paid attention to tonight.
Why didn't you like the poster?
I hated the poster because it's just a weird image. You've got George Clooney. It's a kind of a triptych strip of George Clooney on the left, Julia Roberts on the right, and in the middle is just presumably Jack O'Connell's hand with a gun.
Okay.
And then you've got like the television pattern underneath. It looked kind of generic, but I'm like, just put Jack O'Connell's face in there.
Okay.
Or, a picture of the Wall Street Bull or something. It's just, the gun makes it seem, I guess, seedier and more of the kind of movie. It comes down to marketing, right?
Oh yeah. You got to push the Hollywood face.
It's just a bunch of people in a TV studio talking about money. Pass. And
right.
We just see Captain America.
Right.
A gun. Ooh, something might actually happen in this movie. So it's, but if you imagine Michael B. Jordan in this part, and it's a black hand with a gun in between these two movie stars.
Now it's a little interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It changes the dynamic a lot.
Damn it.
I know, right? Let's get Jody on the phone real quick. Like, look, you got to do a sequel.
I know it's coming out Friday.
I know, right? It's just enough time to do a revision. It's fine.
Money Monster pulled from theaters.
I know, right?
Return fall 2016. But no, it's the questions that it poses. I was surprised that they went the places that it did. I'm surprised it had the ending it did.
Yeah.
Because,
Were you surprised? I wasn't surprised with it.
I was surprised.
Or what part of the ending did surprise you?
I was surprised that it was not as it wasn't resolved. It wasn't tidy.
Nothing in this world ever is.
Right, but I keep going back to my expectations of this movie from the trailer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, in the trailer, the movie that trailer represents.
Sure.
The big bad guy, maybe he goes to jail. He's taken out in handcuffs.
Maybe.
Once he
They
confesses
said maybe.
No, I'm saying this. If I were watching the movie I had expected.
Oh, okay,
the big bad guy would have made his confession on TV.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been let out in handcuffs. The FEC or SEC guy would have been right there.
Right.
Instead of the negotiator.
Sure.
And Jack O'Connell would have gotten let out. His girlfriend would have been nice and just going to visit him in prison or something.
Right.
And then George Clooney and Julie Roberts kiss.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, right.
This movie. There's an intimation that they could be romantically linked if he doesn't have a billion STDs by now.
Right.
But they are just friends. It was he kisses her, but it's a nice kiss on the side of the head. Like,
that's the friend kiss.
Yeah, we're sticking with each other.
Yeah.
We're veterans.
Right.
We've been through this traumatic thing. But it ends on a down note. The kid who is the ultimate hero of the movie, even though he's the catalyst for all the bad things a lot of the bad things that happen.
Now that's interesting. Was he the hero?
That's how do you define hero?
That's a good question. I mean, because I was struggling with that too, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, do I want to make him a hero? Because I understand trying to make the empathetic connections with him. But it didn't make what he did right.
No, it didn't.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, for me, when I kind of look at this movie, I'm like, there were no real winners. If there was a winner, Lenny was the winner.
Oh, the cameraman?
Lenny, the cameraman. Because the whole time,
he survived.
Balls. He's just like, damn it, all right, I'm going to go do this, No, but, I don't know if there were any real winners. Because almost everybody did something shady in this movie. Doesn't mean that there weren't redeeming moments.
Yeah.
But I don't...
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
I don't know.
There are winners in the movie, but they're not the kind of people that you necessarily want to see win.
Sure.
Because...
the union strikers? The ones that kept on striking?
We'll see.
Maybe?
Money Monster 2. There'll be a blurb about how that turned out. But I mean, that's the whole kind of point of the film. And did you ever see Network?
I didn't. Fill me in.
Get a chance, watch Network.
Okay.
It's very, and that's why I kind of watched it as preparation for this movie.
Okay.
It came out 40 years ago.
That's probably why I didn't see it. Yep. It's probably my father's loins. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I wasn't even on the radar when this movie came out. But do you ever hear that expression, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore?
Yeah. Is that where that came from?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's a very similar kind of premise. There is a news anchor who is he's kind of on the rocks. He's got some issues. He's about to get canned from his job. Okay. And he goes on the air and he goes off script and starts ranting about how the entire system is corrupt, how the media
sounds
is
very
bought
familiar.
and paid for.
Okay.
And he starts having a meltdown.
Yeah.
But because people are tuning in, the folks who own the company that owns the network,
they want
the company
that
is buying the company that owns the network, they're like, no, keep going, keep
it's
this
ratings.
up. Yeah, it's all about ratings,
Right.
it's all about money, sensationalism.
Right.
This is stuff from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But that has a very dark ending and another kind of ambiguous thing where you're like, I don't know who, the people who survived and who are thriving right now, I can't get behind them. The only people who have any peace or resolution are, dead or unemployed.
Or not born yet, I guess.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
But at the end of this movie, I mean, the Walter guy, the billionaire criminal who, stole everybody's money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the SEC may bring charges, but is he really going to get prosecuted?
That was the thing. He was like, what did I do that was illegal?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because let's be honest, you know, we're not talking about Gordon Gekko here, right? Like, a lot of these people know what they're doing. They know that there are no clear definitions.
Yep.
And they usually do these type of practices with reasonable doubt, right? Or, you know, plausible deniability or whatever thing to get them out of trouble. So, you know, I thought it was an interesting moment that during his coerced confession, he was just like, what can you guys prove? You know, I mean, does this look bad? It looks bad.
Yeah.
Does it look wrong? Sure, fine, it's wrong, but it doesn't mean it's illegal. And I think they kind of touched on that even in the beginning with Kyle's character, where he's like, you know, I pay taxes and you guys barely pay anything. You know, is that wrong? Yeah, probably. But is it illegal? No. You know, so...
And I think that's a very good point, because Walter,
yeah,
he's the CEO of a company, but who's the CEO of the company that owns his company? And you know, it's probably dispersed all throughout the planet.
Sure.
And there's probably like 5 guys running the entire thing. You know,
Yeah.
not get all Illuminati, but it's and then the Clooney character, he still has a job ostensibly.
Sure.
So does his directing partner, Julia Roberts, and
Who wasn't without shadiness either, because she accepted that job across the street.
Yes.
You know.
But I have a feeling that that FNN or whatever, the Financial News Network, they're gonna say, hey, you guys take a week off, come back. Or, well, no, because news cycles are.
You have to do it next week.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that traumatic experience right now? It's good. It's good. Go with it.
Yeah. They got the Barbara Walters special, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Starting on Tuesday, but you know they're still good. They I think Kyle accuses Lee, the Clooney character, of being a millionaire.
Yeah.
And Lee doesn't deny it. And
No.
He kind of says that, you know, $60,000 I can get.
I got
that.
you.
Yeah.
That's no big deal.
So I think it's safe to say that he's very, very well off. Despite there was an interesting point in the film where they do kind of a comparison of their lives to say, yes, I've got millions of dollars, but I also have 3 ex-wives.
Right.
And, you know, no personal life to speak of. He is the money monster. But yeah, there was a lot of interesting side notes and observations, I think, before it becomes a really hostage-y, action-y kind of thing. Once they leave the studio, it's still good, it's still engaging, it's still funny in parts, but it doesn't necessarily have that same tension.
I liked how, I thought it was interesting how it was able to bounce back and forth. Like, I've always found it compelling whenever a movie can find that perfect blend of mixing 2 different genre styles together. It had these comedic moments, but they weren't too much to make you completely distracted. It was just more of like, okay, this is classic comic relief to give me a breather, because for the past, 4 or 5 minutes, you had my heart racing a whole couple, for a while. And, but somebody said something witty or funny or whatever. Okay, now let's get back to this serious situation. So, I thought, again, that's kudos to Foster here, as a director. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially managing emotions. And to manage my emotions and to take the driver's wheel and steer it, that's like what you expect the director to do,
Yeah, the directing and the editing. I mean, I don't know how much of these decisions were scripted, but the movie essentially ends on a laugh.
Yeah.
And the moment I'm talking about, it's the YouTube or the Vine, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Of this disgraced billionaire guy intercut with things that are scary.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But that's like, what? There's 2 minutes left in the movie after that. It ends on kind of a nice note, but it was a big, unexpected laugh in the theater, and that was just so nice because it was preceded by something that was incredibly sad.
Right.
This character who really was loser is a bad word, but he just never was able to figure it out and be successful. He had the drive and he had the desire to be something. He just didn't make anything of himself.
Right.
And he did something desperate, and he never got a chance to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So that's incredibly sad. And he's not the hero of the movie.
Sure.
But
I think if you want to make him a hero, you got to put an adjective in there, and I'd say maybe he was a tragic hero.
Yeah.
Like tragic heroes are not flawless; they're flawed, and they just always have the right intentions, but they don't always go about it the right way.
Yeah.
So I'd say he's a tragic hero. Because you do feel for the guy. We've all been to that point where we try, but there's some external factor holding us back, whether it's the system, the man, or whatever, life.
That little thing.
I know, that crazy little thing, life, gets in the way. It's just, I thought that was a really good, genuine reflection of what we all go through in some degree, in some aspect in our lives. Because even the audience within the movie were tapping into his frustration. Speaking of which, I thought it was kind of funny where they tried to do the triple buy thing, and that completely didn't work. I actually thought it was going to work. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, everybody raise the stock up, make that thing happen. Nah.
It goes down.
Oh my god. And it kept going down.
See, I was concerned for a second because it just kept incrementing in cents.
Right.
I'm like,
right.
Okay, they're at $8.48 now, and now they're at $8.49. Is this going to be the next hour and a half?
I was thinking percentages. I'm like, oh man, I'd sell that stock too.
But yeah, that was a nice surprise and a big laugh, and I don't know if it was even intended as a laugh, or if Foster just kind of mentioned it as, is it ever going to feel bad for George Clooney's character? And I'm like, no. And that was borne out later when people are laughing and making fun of him, as you mentioned.
Right.
And the foosball image at towards the very end is the perfect way to sum up this movie.
It was.
Because there was a guy playing foosball in a bar where this news event
because it started that way, didn't it?
Did it?
Maybe.
I'm kind of fuzzy on the whole timeline.
Well, if you see it again, I wonder, because...
But they're playing foosball, and he's like, I guess, watching the event play out on the screen.
Yeah.
And then it's over, and they say, crisis averted, we're going to cut to something else. And he just goes back to playing foosball.
Right.
And that's exactly how the markets are going to react.
Right.
At the very end of the movie, it's like the NASDAQ is now 9 points.
Yeah.
Come next week,
it's
going to be back bigger than ever.
Yeah.
And that's the... You want to talk about tragic hero? That's the tragedy that the hero.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The fact that all of his efforts were a very small blip, in the bigger scheme of things. It was sad in the fact that he was saying stuff that we already kind of knew.
Yeah.
But because this money monster is so big, it's gonna keep on chugging.
It's interesting. We stayed through the end credits.
Yeah.
And after the Sony logo came up on the crawl, it said Sony, and then underneath it said "Be moved." And I was like,
interesting.
That is interesting. But then right after that was the TriStar logo.
Sure.
So I'm like, oh shit, "Be moved" is probably just the Sony motto. And I was thinking, is this a call to action or what? But I just feel like it's a very strange film because I recommend people go see it.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing that I think people need to see.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to do anything.
And I wonder if that's the point.
The
irony. That's the irony of it.
Yes, we feel your pain. Here's a movie that addresses it. Now just, go see.
Go back to doing what you were doing because that's what they do in the movie too. And
coming in 3 weeks, Finding Dory. That's going to be great.
Right. And then, we go back to foosball, right?
So now I'm depressed.
I know, right? Well, I'm going to go buy some stock and feel good about myself. So I don't know about you. I'm going to go make some money.
You're gonna go make some money.
I wish.
That sounds really nice.
I wish.
Well, so I mean, I think we've. Is there anything that we've missed significantly?
No, I mean, I think this movie was really straightforward, and yeah, I mean, it wasn't that deep once you get past the actual financial situation and the societal interactions with that.
Yeah.
I didn't really see much more to it. Like I think it's a good movie to just sit down. You don't have to be well versed in the finances and stuff to appreciate it, but I do think you will be if you are even somewhat familiar with the jargon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It'll definitely resonate with you a little bit more than the average person. But I mean, like, I could take my dad and have him sit down and watch this, regardless of if he gets it or not. It was a well done movie, Like I said, the intensity of the suspense and the I mean, was this more of a thriller, I guess?
It is. It's going to be categorized as a drama, probably.
Okay.
But I don't.
I felt like it was a suspense thriller type of.
I think it defies categorization simply because of the comedy that was in it. Because
I don't even know if that's going to be addressed.
I don't know either.
Like, I don't know if there's a certain percentage of humor that you need to have to break into the comedy realm.
Maybe. I mean, because Pam brought this up earlier. It reminded her of The Big Short from last year. Did you see that?
I did not yet.
Oh, my God. If you're
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Apologies.
If you are a financial guy, you need to see The Big Short.
It's on my list because it's...
Put it at the top.
It's up there.
Because that is another movie that very much like this walks that line between, I would say it's more of a comedy, with some dramatic elements.
Okay.
It's kind of like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Sure.
This is like the summer blockbustery kind of version of The Big Short. The
Okay.
Big Short is definitely a fall serious issues movie presented in an entertaining way.
Right.
This is an entertaining movie that has serious issues in it, but it's also. If you just want to go see a hostage movie with some glamorous movie stars, you'll get that.
Right.
If you want to go see a hostage movie with glamorous movie stars that has a bit more to say that's probably going to surprise you,
right,
definitely go see it.
Big Short. Okay.
Or the Money Monster.
Oh, Money Monster. Okay.
Yeah, Big
okay.
Short is the artsier of the two.
The artsier. Okay, that makes more sense.
And that is one that. Not to spoil it for you because you haven't seen it, but they get into the heavy technical stuff about.
I figured as much.
Credit default swaps and
Right.
all that stuff, but they have a great way of helping the audience along in
That's
a way
all
that
I
is
like.
not,
That's- I
it's
love
not
that.
condescending.
Yeah.
If you know what they're talking about,
Sure.
if you don't know what you're talking about, it's like this great crash course, and like, oh, I'm totally caught up now.
Right.
Let's we can move on.